Wonderful. Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Spirit Society of Virginia. It's so good to be with all of you today. We are going to start by reading a message called The More You by the Spirit of Bezerra de Menezes through the hands of the medium Chico Xavier. The more you always bless your difficulties and do not regret them, considering that God always grants us the best, and the best you have constantly obtained with the possibility of being more useful. The more you help others, the more ample help you will receive from higher life. The more you tolerate the setbacks of the world, the more you will be supported in emergencies of life, in which you remain seeking peace and progress, elevation and light. The more freedom you give your loved ones, allowing them to live the existence they choose, the freer you will be to obey Jesus, building your own happiness. The more you understand those who share your human paths, the more respected you will feel, you will find yourself, since the more you donate, then you are in benefit stranger. The greater covering of the Lord's protection will assure tranquility in your steps. Let's keep looking for Jesus in all the brothers and sisters on earth, but especially in those who suffer problems and difficulties greater than our obstacles. Helping and serving, and always happier, we will find ourselves under His blessings, our Master and Lord.
Thank you, Felipe. Yay, friends. The more we love, the better it is, right? The happier we'll be. So the more we communicate with God, the better it is. So let us then raise our thoughts to God and feel God's presence. Dear loving Creator, sometimes we wonder the day we're going to be able to see our birth. The video movie of the birth of ourselves as seeds, created with so much love and promise. Finally, we realize that we live and exist because of you, and we seek the true purpose of our existence, not only in this life, but in immortality. Thank you for trusting the opportunities you've given us, in trusting us with everything you've given, the physical body that is now a good friend, allowing us to be here in this reincarnation. Thank you for our family, for the guardian angels that are always with us. Thank you for the opportunity of progressing. We're so happy to know that we'll be better tomorrow than today. That in 1,000,000 years from today, we'll be experiencing even better feelings and thoughts, producing constructive, loving thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. So we want to practice all of it today. We visualize everyone who is here in two realms, enveloped in your love, and we know that the spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists are here with us. We visualize everyone who has their names in the book of prayer, enveloped in your kindness. And for those who are not able to come, we visualize flowers of healing being offered to each one of them, giving them the healing that they need and the strength. feeling your guidance, the serenity that comes with it, your generous protection. We thank you for the permission you grant us to begin this therapeutic session in your name and with your life. And so be it. So be it. All right. Who has heard the sentence, thought is life? Raise your hand. Thought is life. No! So for those who have never heard it, think about it. Thought is life. What does that mean? Thought is life. What does that mean? Thought is life. Meaning, if you say, I'm just thinking, actually, we're creating. We create our mind, we create our lives in our minds first. So let's not be surprised when life offers us lemons and we're like, how come I got lemons if I thought of strawberries? Yes, make a lemonade. Exactly. You see, the new generation, the youngest ones already gave us the recipe. So today we're gonna learn about making lemonades and finding out how we got lemons. While you're inside, you have more, okay? You can go with your Miss Daisy, Miss Carol, Miss Paloma. Enjoy. Yeah, okay, you have to tell them. You have to tell them. Meanwhile, I'll pass this around, okay? For those who want to help donating some items for the service we'll have at the end of the month in DC to help the beggars, the homeless, you can fill it out. Okay. No, they can. Our AC is going to be changed. All right. So, thought is life. Is it? Thought is life. You remember the story of John Tomorrow? We have John the Rose, but we also have John Tomorrow. John Tomorrow was a man, it's real, in Spain. Of course he didn't, he wasn't called John. It was Juan. Mañana. Juan Mañana. Imagine, he existed. And who was he? He was a man who always said, I'll do it tomorrow. What is life? It's a true account. It's in the book 15 Cases of Previous Lives. And then Amalia Domingo Soler, the greatest spiritist medium in the 20th century in Spain, she said that this man was always saying, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. You see, it's like a mantra. Well, he was the only son, very spoiled. So we parents have to be very careful educating our children for the world. We can't, they better cry with us when we say no than with life. Because life will not tell them, oh, poor you, they'll say, you did the crime, you take the time. So, basically, friends, John Tomorrow was so spoiled at a time in which children didn't have to go to school. If they learned it, they learned it. If they didn't, they didn't. So basically, the parents didn't care much because they had enough money, farms, etc. He said, when he was 20, his uncle came to visit and told the parents, I can't believe he's 20 years old. He doesn't know how to write and read. What are you doing? How are you preparing him? You see how parents lose sight of the future? It's like planting seeds for tomorrow. We're preparing children. For us parents, there's a wonderful book that was translated by one of the members of the Spirited Society of Virginia. It's a book titled, in Portuguese, Pequenos Deslizes, Grandes Problemas. Small oversights, big problems. Dr. Américo Canhoto, physician and spiritist in Brazil, author of many books, he wrote this fantastic book for parents. Because usually you say, they're like this because they're children. No. I remember when Virginia was their age, Sophia, and, Lauren, thank you, beautiful girl. They used to be right there next to Carlos, seated on that chair. Seated there. And I would do what I had to do, and she was there. And the people, John and Paul and many others who were here, they remembered. They didn't even know there was a child in the room. Why? Because we always told Virginia, you have to stay quiet, be quiet for your own good. Some parents are the opposite. They say, I can't bring my children in because they don't stay quiet. Well, if they don't stay quiet at 2, at 6, they will be a nightmare. So it's a practice for us. It's a practice. They are there quiet. They know they are well. And that's how it is. But John tomorrow didn't have this education like our children here. They didn't have attentive parents like we have here at the SSVA. So the uncle said, allow me to teach him a few things for your own sake. Okay, so he traveled with his uncle overseas. He was a merchant and he learned how to write, how to read, and a few other things. But one day, a letter came in the mail. The mom said, John, you have to come back. Your father is ill. It doesn't look like he's going to make it. So she wrote, giving him enough time to travel back. Because then they didn't have airplanes. And they didn't have ships sailing all the time. Every 6 months, they would have that opportunity. So he said, I will. He had to travel first by horse in a carriage and then get to the harbor to sail back home. But then one of the wheels of the carriage broke. But he was tired. And he said, tomorrow I will take it to be fixed. The next day, the man wasn't there. It took a few days. When he got to the harbor, the ship was gone. He had to wait. By the time he reached his home, the father was dead. And the mother, for the first time in her life, showed how disappointed she was with him and said, John, I made a huge mistake. I raised you so poorly that you were unable to be here at the most important time. He felt ashamed of himself. And then he had to help the mother. Meanwhile, he met a girl, a good girl, good family, they say back then. And the mom was happy to see that he finally got interested in making a family. He got engaged. But suddenly, Suddenly, they received a letter from the uncle saying, John, I don't have anybody to pass on my inheritance. You have to come. Come back here. You have to come because I'll give it all to you. He said, okay, Mom, and my beloved fiancé, I have to travel. I'll go there, help Uncle. He's going to pass away, and I'll come back. He traveled. While he was there, he always thought, I'm going to write a letter tomorrow to Mom and my beloved fiancé to explain what's going on. He never did. He never wrote a letter, so they never knew. Years went by. 2 years. They thought, he's dead. Well, back then, there was no internet, no phone, no communication. Everything was hard. So they assumed he was dead. They were on their own. Back then, if you didn't want to get married, it was very hard to be single. So you potentially would enter, give your vows, and be a nun if you didn't want to be married at all. Or her parents would force her into marriage. So she told his mother, look, I'm going to enter this congregation and I'm going to stay there as a nun because if I don't have him as my husband, I will marry the Christ. But one day he was back. Though he never wrote a letter, never wrote a note saying, I'm coming back. That day, irony, the day he came back, everybody in the home, the servants thought, are you for real? Because they said you're dead. Yes, I didn't die. But you didn't say anything. Where's my mom? Your mom is at the church. Where is my fiancé? At the church. Doing what? She is becoming a nun today. So he runs to the church. When he is in the church, his fiancé sees him and she's so shocked because she gave her vow already to be a nun. She couldn't go back. She told herself, if I'm not going to be his wife, I won't live anymore. You know what she did in front of everybody. When the mom saw it, she fell ill. A few days later, she died. It's a story written in a spiritist book, not in Hollywood. Because it sounds like Hollywood, but it's a true story. But why are the good spirits telling us this? Because he was always living for tomorrow. He would always say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And lesson after lesson, he doesn't learn it. You think the story is over? No. Now he has the inheritance of the parents and of the uncle. But he doesn't want to work. He's always living for tomorrow. So he loses everything. He becomes a homeless person. The story is so dramatic that the village knows about his story, about his I'll live for tomorrow mantra, that everywhere he goes, knocks on the door and say, can you give me some bread? They say, come back tomorrow. Hey, John, tomorrow, come back tomorrow. So he became a joke in the city. Because he didn't want to do things today. The day he got sick, he was so sick, he was like a block away from the hospital, the clinic that would help. He said, I'll do it tomorrow. But he dies before he reaches there. When he's about to be buried, a rain falls. Rain falls, and the guys, knowing he's John tomorrow, saying, you know, since he liked to leave everything for tomorrow, we'll bury him tomorrow. John tomorrow created his life in his own mind. He always left for tomorrow. What about us? What are the things that we often think? Some people think of life, I want to leave, you know why? Because I read a book about the things that make us die quickly. So then you're not thinking of life. You're thinking of death. You're afraid of death. Then it's not life. You're thinking of death. If you ask a personal trainer, do you think of life or death when you're working out? Because if you think of death saying, I'm going to work out to avoid death, then you're thinking of death. You're not thinking of life. There are people who stop to eat because they think, I'm going to avoid death. And that's mental illness. Because then you become anorexic, because you're avoiding death, but you're marching towards death. And we think we are thinking of life. So we need pencil and paper at home, just between God and us, to write down the things we think the most. At least the top 3 thoughts. Because then we think we're aiming at happiness. For example, Louise Hay, a phenomenal thinker, she discarnated but left a legacy about the power of the mind. And she herself is an example of it. She said, we have often the poverty mentality. We save money not thinking of wealth, but afraid of poverty. That's poverty mentality. We are afraid of being poor and we keep the money, greediness. But we're not keeping to let it flow and create beautiful things. We're keeping because we're afraid of being poor, of having nothing. It's poverty mentality. And then everywhere we go, you know, as a parent, when you go to school, you see that so often. Parents don't want to give things. They are always seeking the opportunity for you to pay the things for their children because they don't want to spend the money. Poverty mentality. You go to their house, big houses, big cars, great jobs. They have assets, but they don't want to buy an ice cream for their children. They are praying that you buy for them. That's poverty mentality. They have a Maserati in their garage, but they don't want to pay the pizza that their children are going to eat with you. They're hoping you are going to pay the pizza. And sometimes they say, I'm not going to spend this money on this pizza, on this play date. They are greedy because of their poverty mentality. This is poverty mentality. And just like John tomorrow, you're afraid, you're keeping, and one day life is going to take it all away. To show that you don't need to keep anything to be happy. So we need to ask ourselves, are we driven in our actions by thoughts of health, wealth, generosity, charity, or are we greedy? Always willing that somebody pays things for us and our kids. Always willing that the government gives us everything because we don't want to put our hands in the pocket and help. We don't want to help people. There are people who see a banana skin in the street and say, I didn't put it there. It's not mine. I'm not going to help. So how can we be happy this way? We think of happiness, but our daily thought is opposite to it. Just like John tomorrow. He didn't know how to think correctly. I remember Divaldo Franco. In 2003, there was a storm, a snowstorm. We were in one of his events in Boston, and a huge snowstorm. So we all had to travel back to our cities by train. So we were traveling with him, and he told me of the story he learned with the Sai Baba in India. Divaldo had a heart condition. And he said, Vanessa, when I met Sai Baba, who healed people, he said to me, you need to think correctly, to feel correctly, to say things rightfully, and do things right. Divaldo never forgot it. He got healed. He's 96. He said, I learned that thought is life. In Spiritism, in 1958, Emmanuel through Chico Xavier wrote this book, Thought and Life. I know we're sold out in our bookstore, but we're finding a way to get this book here. We're going to find in this line of thought by Emmanuel, in many of his books, that you will do what you wish, as Jesus said, seek and you'll find. So what is our innermost wish? Freud used to say that on the surface, we behave well, but deep inside, our wishes are a little twisted. And he was right. André Louis shows to us that because of those innermost wishes, we make connections with spirits that are not very happy. We're not the only ones talking about it. Joseph Murphy, one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, he wrote several books, and a book talking about the power of the subconscious mind. He inspired in his books Louise Hay, who then later did all her work. In a beautiful book that she wrote, You Can Heal Your Life. It's good to show our children. When they're little, you have a cough, come here. Look, this book says, when you're coughing, it's because you want to speak up, but you are afraid of speaking up. So what do you want to speak up? You have your foot sprained, you're angry about this, so what are you angry about? Because your healing will come true if you become conscious. So, Joseph Murphy says that our wishes, our desires are prayer. So what is our desire? I see many people who are married for a little while who say this, bless you. Oh, I envy single people because they can do whatever they like. They can go out, they can drink, they can have dates with whomever they like. And then you want a happy marriage. You are married, but you are dreaming of being single. Your desire is prayer. And then you get a divorce. How come? Well, every day you are praying to be single again. You are praying of being free. Free to do whatever you like. You got your freedom. You're divorced. Happy now? You see how we don't make sense of ourselves? We need to talk about reality. And then we envy single people. Single people look at married people and envy married people because they want to have a family. And at the end of the day, we are going in opposite directions, right? So we need to be more coherent, says science. Deep in our subconscious, we have desires that we don't show even to ourselves. But those who get to know themselves will progress faster. It's in the Spirit's book by Kardec. Those who learn who they truly are, they will prevent mistakes and progress faster. So we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and be courageous, as Jesus said, to find out, what do I really want? I want a happy child in my life. But how many parents do I know who curse their own children? I know many. Many. No, I like my child, but you know what? They are paying. And then they get sick. We don't know why. They always get sick. I wonder who's helping them get so sick. Our energies. We're sending, emitting negativity to them. Do we think well of our spouses? Do we think well of our children? Do we think well of our relatives? We go to family reunions and we are already on the defense. I know that uncle is always going to be like that cousin, that brother, that sister. And you see, I told you, I barely stepped in, they already said that. Yeah, because before you got in, we said 10,000 things in our minds. They felt it, they voiced it. Are we victims? The power of our minds. We're so powerful in our minds that we have no idea. So basically, our subconscious mind is a great dark room that we need to open up and see what it is. In Spiritism, we learn that we as spirits, we think continuously, and these thoughts operate like hands in the energies, the cosmic principle that God gives to us. And as we have our will, we're going to condense those thoughts. Depending on the frequency, on the intensity, those thoughts will saturate my spiritual body, the paraspiritual molecules, and materialize themselves. I remember a man I met very personally. All through his life, he would say, he would go to the gym, he would be very disciplined in his diet, very hardworking. But whenever he had an argument with someone, he would say, if I'm not speaking the truth, I want God to give me cancer to prove that I am wrong. When he was almost 80, he got his cancer. You attracted it. I want God to give me, I want God to give. Well, here it is, delivered to you. Like John tomorrow, always tomorrow, always tomorrow, always tomorrow. And then everybody in the village said, tomorrow. So if people in our lives are replying in a certain way, we need to ask, what am I thinking of them that they are reacting this way? What am I feeling about life that is bringing this to me? Because if it's materializing, it's because we created. If not in this life, in other lives. Now we need to take the consequences and change today for tomorrow. Planting new seeds. I want a family. Care for this family. Love this family. Think well of these people. Pray for the family you have. Don't dream of being single, because then you're going to get divorced. Don't envy the single people, because the single people are envying you. It's just our childish mode. And then, of course, I know many couples will stay together. in spite of their troubled relationships. But when they discarnate, will they have achieved the reincarnatory plan? By being together all this long, but actually not actually loving your family? Then it's hypocrisy, right? You are together, but when you die, you didn't actually conquer. So what's the point of having children when we don't want to raise them? So the quality, the frequency, and the intensity of our thoughts. I want health, but I'm constantly afraid of death. Now, I'm not going to eat a cake because that is going to give me cancer. So you're not driven to health. You're driven to disease. You're thinking of being afraid of disease all the time. No. I remember a beautiful person who is a singer in California. She came to the SSVA 13 years ago. And she was really a beautiful soul, driven to eating healthy because of health. She never talked about that. She never made anybody around her feel bad. If you would eat a cake in front of her, she was so serene inside of her. But she would very discreetly eat healthy, not even to affect people around her. She always thought about beautiful thoughts. She was very generous. So she was driven to health because of life, not because of death. She was not afraid of dying. She didn't stop eating meat like many people are doing nowadays. Is it good or bad? Only God knows. But she stopped not because she's afraid of dying, but because for her, it feels right. But she never made you feel bad because you ate meat. Health. Emmanuel is going to tell us, if I think of ill things of others, slander, soon I will become a vehicle of unhappy minds who dedicate themselves to injury and cruelty. So he's teaching us how to change distorted thoughts. How often do we spend our days thinking of others and what they do and the bad things that they do? In our minds, maybe we don't say it, but we're thinking, what kinds of spirits are they connecting to me? Happy spirits? No. But Vanessa, I don't gossip. But if I am at my corner thinking ill of this person, that person, the other person, then I have a crowd of spirits with me who are also unhappy like me, because if I'm happy, I'm not thinking of others in that way. Then problems will come. So here we have another one that is very important, the pleasure of the senses. If you keep yourself in the chasing of pleasure of the senses, soon you become the interpreter of intelligence who are magnetized by the vices of varied expression. Emmanuel is teaching us how to think and feel correctly, beginning with our five senses. People who love seeing porn and think it's harmless. The news is this. When you're watching those, you have a crowd with you. But Vanessa, what can I do? My friend said it to me on WhatsApp. You know, I remember a guy telling me this. We're friends since childhood. And you know what? What can I do? They send it in the group in WhatsApp, and I can't help it. I can't get out of the group. A married man with a very high position in the government And I'm like, really, you don't know the answer to this? You have to look at the pictures. So you're a prisoner, and you're blaming your friends. What kinds of spirits we're going to be? And then the person is in the second marriage, but it's not happy yet. Why? Because we have a crowd of spirits who don't want us to be well in this marriage, because they want to use us as instruments for their own senses, their pleasures. Eating. Now again, taste. Of all pleasures, eating is number one. So we need to discipline our sense of taste, because easily we can get addicted. Of course, neuroscience tells us we are what we eat. So we have to be careful. It's all about what Ben Franklin said, moderation. I'm never going to be eating sweets again. Wow. That's an impossible promise in this world. Let's be realistic. Impossible. Because at some point we will. But do we need to eat the whole cake? We can practice moderation. Eat a piece, a tiny bit. Or others will eat with us. Andre Louis shows it to us in his books. We need to read his books. Because when we read, we understand that when we sit at our table, in our homes, we're not eating alone. And it's scary to think, but it's true. Andre Louis shows to us, he's visiting a house in a mission, and they are at dinner time. They look around, they see 6 people seated at the table. But they also see 6 discarnate spirits around, sitting with them and eating with them. And he's like, I can't believe this. They are eating with the people? Why? And the answer is, they don't pray, number one. Their house is an open door to anybody who wants to come in. If we want a security system in our house, we need to pray in our house. 2, moderation. But moderation is not about not eating, starving yourself, because then you have other types of spirits who will be with us, pushing us to death, making us not eating anything. So practicing this discipline of the senses will lead us into better company spirit-wise. But if you engage in the goodwill towards others, the fellow beings, you have your heart imperceptibly driven by the messengers of the eternal goodness to the service that you can perform in building the common welfare. On Friday, we were here studying chapter 5 of the book Laws of Love by Emmanuel. And it's all about obsession, spirit attachment. And after 20 questions in the last one, what is the simplest solution to protect us from being attacked, assaulted by other spirits? What is it? We remember to do the good always towards everyone. Always. But if I spend 99% of my days thinking of helping my family, helping myself, 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 we're easy prey to spirits who are just as selfish as we are. Because helping our family is an obligation, not charity. But Vanessa, I sacrifice for my family. That's an obligation. We're talking about the universal family. How often do we actually help others without receiving no reward. Once a year, once a month, once a week, never. We should do it daily. Daily, never go to sleep, Mentor Joseph says. Never, ever, Vanessa, go to sleep without helping somebody who can never repay you. Never. Don't go to sleep only taking care of you and your family, you and your family, you and your family, you and your family, you and your family. Because when we do, we are entering a vibration of selfishness, attracting spirits that are very self-absorbed and usually dislike us. But when we are willing to help others, we are connected with the good messengers. They see that we stop our interests, personal interests, and we're taking care of somebody. Like you're driving, you see a beggar. Don't keep on driving. Turn around. Give something, but I don't have anything. Well, go to the next ATM, pick up something, and then give it to the person. Or at least if you can't stop whatsoever, say a prayer to that person. There must be something. For example, during COVID, we couldn't do much person to person, right? Physically. But remember, we couldn't come to the center. We were doing everything online. But we could walk in the neighborhood. So we said, Virginia, we're going to collect trash in the streets as we walk. See? And then Carlos, Virginia, and I were like practicing this. If we can't do more, at least we're cleaning the streets. And we were shocked that people were in their houses and the streets. You could find stuff that should be trashable, and they were not. So there is always a way to do something. Mentor Joseph says, don't stay here pitying yourselves because of the pandemic, because there are people who are in their homes, and how many people do you know who got divorced during the pandemic? Why did they get divorced? Because it was a mess. Domestic violence escalated during the pandemic. And we spiritists were pitying ourselves in our homes. We can no longer afford that. So you and I are being invited today to connect higher. As we think beautiful thoughts, feel beautiful feelings, we're connecting with higher loving spirits who love us, good teachers of the beyond, who want us to be good instruments of theirs everywhere we go. Observe your own way, says Emmanuel, that you're not heeding for problems regarding those who accompany you. We have a spiritual network. This is the actual picture of us. We think we're alone. We're constantly connected to 10,000 minds. They have a relationship with us. When you descend to animal instincts, animalism, you find the extensive crowd of those who accompany you with dark purposes. We need to leave mental battles. This is in the book by Andrea Lewis, In the Domains of Mediumship. This woman is seated on her bed. Her husband is cheating on her with somebody whom she doesn't know, but she sits there and the description is she's thinking of the woman who potentially is the affair. And he describes that as she's thinking of the woman, this woman is incarnated and feels it and is almost materializing in front of her. If you read chapter 20, go read the book. It's shocking. And he says, this is a mental battle. And he says, homes live in mental battles with within themselves or within family members, people at work. You go home, the boss said something, or the employee, you go home and say, oh man, I should have answered that. And then you rehearse the whole dialogue again. That's a mental battle. What kinds of spirits are going to be with us? We need to renounce mental battles. Tell our children, you go to school, came back. The first thing we parents need to do when we pick up our children from school or when we meet them, they come with the bus, however it is to cleanse their minds from the 10,000 things that they don't know what to do with. Talk with them. Sit down and say, how was it? At some point, they're going to say, that person did this. That's how they saw it, right? That's how they saw it. Not necessarily is the reality. And say, okay, that friend did this. Let's pray for this friend. We help them organize their emotions, organize their thoughts, so when they become adults, they will be able to go to work, come back, and know what to do with everything they experience. Millions of homes can be compared to a battlefield where thoughts fight with thoughts, causing the most varied forms of anguish and repulsion. So the bottom line for us is, let's elevate ourselves in self-improvement, and your spirit will walk bathed upon the company of those pioneers of evolution who have preceded you in the path of light, guiding your aspirations for the victories of the soul. So let us examine our desires, inspecting them closely, testing the condition of our desires, inquiring carefully, and changing. We want a family. We can't regret being a family. If we are at work and we want to be happy and successful, we need to love the people we're there with. If we go to school, we're there. Oh, but they don't think well of me. But you do think that well of them. It's their problem if they don't, not yours. If they don't love you, their problem. You love them. Let's watch our thoughts, to keep an attentive view in order to see and learn something. And as he says, watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. And your character becomes your destiny. This is a very popular saying that is very real. In the spiritist science, we see it, and in neuroscience already. Dr. Pillai at Harvard wrote a book about fear, and he says, when we think in imaging studies, we see how our thoughts create a pathway of activation in our brains. So thought is life. Let's meditate on this as Emmanuel is inviting us to fly higher in the wings of good or stay stuck in the handcuffs of evil. The master of it all is Jesus for us. He always taught us to know what to ask. Ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. If you tell in your business, I remember this man in Maryland saying, he got his PhD. He said, I'm fine. I don't need more than this. I'm done. But hello, in the United States, we progress. We love progress in this country. You're never going to say, I'm going to stay like this for the rest of my life. Life's going to push you. And the boss kept coming and saying, come on, can you help me with this project? Can you help me with this? And he said, no, I'm fine. Till the day he lost his job. You have a company, and then you say, I just want to survive. Okay. Poverty mentality. But Vanessa, I don't want to ambition wealth. It's not about ambitioning. You want to progress. You want your company to progress. That's the law of God. You can't say, I just want to survive. Because then you destroy your company. Nobody does. We do it. Because of our poverty mentality. I'm good. This is a good job. I don't need more than this. That doesn't exist in life. Law of progress. That doesn't mean we're going to dream of millions. We're going to dream of skills. We're going to dream of achievements for everybody. Even materially. Why not? You create more jobs for people. You're helping God. Sustaining people's lives. That's noble. So today we're asked to know what we're asking. That's it. Very straightforward. Many books for us to read. Felipe later is going to talk about the challenge, which is going to help us, the book challenge, right? Does anybody have a question or a comment before we go to the passages? Do we want to say something?
It's another beautiful way of encouraging us to constantly waking up in the morning, thanking God that you're here again and have the opportunity to help somebody.
Thank you, John.
You'll be given
Yeah. You see, John, you just reminded me of this news I posted on Facebook. Of this woman, 97. Her birthday gift, a tractor. I want to be just like her. 97, you're not thinking of death, Mamma Mia, thank God.
That was beautiful.
Right? She's thinking of life, of movement. And we, majority of us, when we reach a certain age, you pass 50 and people are already like, wow, I know it's already that. When I turned 50, I was like, yesterday I was 49. Now I'm 50, so what? Now I need to think of death. Of course, I know it's going to happen, but that's not why we're living now. Now I forgot my dreams, my progress, because I know I'm going to die. Nobody dies. We better die on a tractor. Movement. Or like Allan Kardec, he was 69. Opening the door to receive the last issue that he wrote of the Spiritist magazine. When he picked up the package, he fell down, had a stroke, and discarnated. Can't be better than this. Because that day is going to come. But we better pray that we are in movement, that we are progressing, that we're doing stuff, than on a bed waiting. Yeah, I'm 90-something already. I know some people like this. You know, what can I expect? Well, if you're still here, you have stuff to do. You better find what you have to do. Or you're going to be here for longer than you imagine. You better get the to-do list done. And then you'll be free. Paula.
Oh, just share my aunt who's 94.
Yeah.
We went to buy her a chair because, her chair probably was not comfortable. So we saw this
Recline.
chair. She looked, right, Tony, we were at the store. She's like, I don't want this chair. That's for old people. 94. We're like, I don't want this chair. It's for old people. I want a modern chair. Right, Tony, 94? Tony was like, 94. This is for old people. She's not old. 94. I was like, oh my God, you're the best.
Thank you for sharing this.
94. I was like,
We'll never forget.
No, this is my mom.
Oh, wow.
She's 94. I'm not
Don't
old.
think of death. For goodness sake, we think of life. And we are going to discarnate in movement. In movement. And when people discarnate, they are granted a new opportunity. We're not sad for them. We bless them, but we still need to do our things. So today we need to think, what am I asking? Is it about the fundraising lunch? We're thinking the meal today. It will be given. It will be given for sure. It's almost ready. But before we go, let's prepare for the passes. During the passes, let us have a dialogue with our guardian angels. Let's talk with them and allow them to help us adjust our wishes, our desires, to become golden desires, immortal goals. We're going to dim the lights, prepare ourselves, friends. Let us all visualize our beloved Master Jesus with his loving heart emanating healing light, enveloping all of us in a new moment of healing. Let us allow God to help us recalibrate ourselves. Let us help one another by visualizing illuminated spirit doctors applying onto each one of us the energy medicine that flows from the mind to the bodies, ridding ourselves of the toxins and replenishing us with renewed wisdom and vitality. Let us trust the loving mercy of God and renew ourselves. Let us visualize our beloved Mother Mary who helps all of us in her maternal, loving, unconditional care. She approaches us, delivering the medicine that we need to strengthen us in the mind and the bodies. Let us feel her loving presence and renew ourselves. visualizing a beautiful waterfalls of healing light. We help one another by feeling these waters of healing showering upon all of us, cleansing minds and hearts, and re-energizing ourselves, visualizing our homes being also cleansed and protected. Let us visualize Jesus as our best friend and see his loving smile and open our hearts to him, allowing him to strengthen us, mind and bodies. Let us visualize Jesus as our best friend, feeling his healing hands touching our heads and applying onto us energies that will make us stronger and ever more loving. Let us feel his presence and his loving embrace. Let us raise our thoughts to God. Dear Mother, Father God, we are always, for all that is provided to each one of us. Thank you for another beautiful Sunday, for the blessed teachings that were given to us, to the children, to the teens. Thank you for sending spiritual doctors and nurses that delivered the treatment that we needed. Thank you for the blessed water that we drank. And we pray, dear God, that our hearts are open for today's teachings, that we allow it to permeate our spirit, and that we have the courage to start making changes so that we align ourselves to the divine every day more. And we pray for the other families connected to the Spirit Society of Virginia that were not able to be here today. We pray for the names on the book of prayer. We pray for everyone that has sent requests over WhatsApp, Kardec Radio, the Spirit Society of Washington, D.C., that everyone is enveloped in healing light and love. And we ask your permission to share today a meal in our community. And so be it.
Wonderful. And friends, just as a reminder, we are having our book challenge. I'm going to pass around a flyer with instructions. Everybody is welcome to participate. If you like, we have our bookstore where you can pick up a book. Also, our Thomas Jefferson Library. I will be back there if you have any questions for those who qualify. Oh, sorry. Closer. There we go. For those who qualify, we have our Thomas Jefferson Library. Please stop by. I'll be there to answer any questions.